Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Bonne soirée à tous, and welcome to this online hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. The Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial tribunal that's appointed by the City of Council to make decisions on certain types of applications under the Planning Act. And the ones that I think are the most common people are most relate to are minor variances and applications for consent. My name is Anne Tremblay, and I'll be chairing the hearing this evening. And with me are my fellow panel members. We have Mr. Scott Hindle, Ms. Julia Markovich, Mr. Colin White, and Ms. Kathleen Willis. We also have quite a cast of supporting committee staff with us as well. We have our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Matthew Garnett, Ms. Cheryl Williams, Ms. Emily Manette, and of course, our coordinator for the evening is Ms. Mandy Nguyen. So welcome to everyone. I also see that we have 3 members of staff from the planning department. So welcome as always to Mr. Hodgins, Ms. Ramirez, and Ms. Young. So with that, please take note that the video conference is being streamed on YouTube. You can archive the video if you'd like after this evening and the agenda, and you can do all of that by simply visiting the City of Ottawa's website. So before we begin, I've got a couple of instructions that we have to share with you. First off, the committee cannot consider any aspects of the proposal that aren't related to any of the aspects of the application or required variances. So if height is being met, then we can't entertain really any comments with regards to height concerns, because if it meets the bylaw, then it's not before us. We also don't talk about noise complaints about neighbors or property maintenance or property values, that kind of thing. Prosecution for illegal construction. Certainly won't entertain any personal comments about either the agent, the applicant, or anyone who's involved in these proceedings. Also, additional variances cannot be considered on the floor where there is either a new minor variance required or greater relief to the amendment that's being requested. All of that has to be paused, adjourned this evening, and taken up at an appropriate later date, sometimes the following meeting, sometimes later. As part of the statutory the statutory public information requirements, each applicant is required to post a sign on the property and then to file a statutory declaration with the committee saying that you've done that. So normally this is pretty easy when it's in person. Online it's been a little bit trickier. So out of all of our applications tonight, we do have one that we won't have to do either an oath or a swearing of the declaration. So, but for the remainder, we will need to go through those motions. With respect to quorum, if we lose quorum as a result of some technological problem, we'll try to pause and see if that resolves itself. If we can't reestablish quorum, and there's 5 of us, so I would be surprised if we weren't able to reestablish quorum this evening. If we couldn't, then of course anything that has been left unaddressed would have to then be essentially put on to the very next meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. So in terms of the process, there is an agenda for tonight. Typically, there is some latitude with regards to the order in which we hear those applications. I think tonight we're going to hear them in order. So save and accept, of course, the adjournment requests. So with that, if the way it normally works is that the committee can ask for a presentation, sometimes not, sometimes it's fairly straightforward. Committee can ask questions for clarification from the applicant or the agent. And then from there, we typically go to the public portion of the presentation or of the hearing on the application. Then we'll hear from anybody who has an interest in the application. Once we have that done, we close the hearing, the public portion of the hearing. Then committee has a chance to either ask additional questions for clarification, and then we move to a decision. So when we move to a decision, there's a number of things we can do. Of course, we can grant an application, we can deny an application. We can also choose to adjourn if we find for whatever reason that it would be in everyone's best interests that we adjourn an application. Then while we're actually hearing it, then we can do that. We can also reserve on an application. There may in fact be a lot of new evidence that's brought forward to us that wasn't part of the file package that I can assure you, review in depth prior to the hearing. So if you'd like to speak to the committee, you're of course welcome to. I don't have any public speakers for this evening that are registered. That doesn't mean you can't speak, of course you can. All you need to do is to raise your hand, make yourself known to the coordinator who will bring you in. And then we'll start with your name and your municipal address, and we can go from there, and you'll have 5 minutes to make your comments to the committee. So once the committee has made an oral decision this evening, then there's a written portion, of course, that gets issued within 10 days of the hearing. That written portion has a lot of detail with regards, or not a lot, but at least provides more detail about the reasons for the committee's decision. And then finally, the decisions are subject to a 20-day appeal period, which time, if you don't agree with the decision of the committee, you can, of course, appeal it to the local planning appeal tribunal for a fee. So with that, I'm going to go to the items of business. We've got a few. So first off, any declarations of conflict of interest with any items on tonight's hearing or any other panels? And I'm seeing none. That's great. So absolutely no declarations of conflict of interest. We also have a number of minutes that we need to approve. So I'd like somebody to move for the minutes of November 4th. Do I have a mover? Mr. Hindle, and a seconder, Ms. Willis. On the November 18 minutes, do I have a mover? Mr. White, seconded by Ms. Ms. Markovich. Sorry, for a minute there. And then December 9th, I need a mover. And I need Ms. Willis. Ms. Markovich took a chance that I'm going to get the name right this time. Yes, seconded by Ms. Markovich. Thank you. Okay. With that, then we have a number of adjournment requests. So the first one I'd like to call is application number 3. That's for 104 Britannia. And I believe I have as an agent for that. I don't have an agent, I have owners. Mr. Thompson and Ms. Myers, are you in attendance? Okay, I see Mr. Thompson is there. You can come on forward. I see Mr. Thompson is there. Can we bring him forward?
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. So no worries. This technology thing takes a little getting used to. So no issues at all. So Mr. Thompson, you're aware that there's been a request for an adjournment on your application?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And you're in agreement with that? No issues, because you understand that there is 2 things missing for your application, correct?
There's the TIR that we're looking for now, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the other is, sorry?
It's you need greater relief from a variance that you have. So that means a recirculation of your application.
That's right. Okay.
All right. So the earliest we can go is to the March 3rd meeting. So because of the recirculation requirements. So I'm going to ask the committee at this point, have you got any questions about the adjournment request or anything you'd like to raise? No? Okay. In terms of the adjournment motion for March 3rd, any issues? Any opposition? Nope. Okay. So before we go there, I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to speak either for or against the adjournment request. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. So committee, what say you with regards to the adjournment request to March 3rd? In favor? Okay, everyone's in favor. It's unanimous for the record. We will see you March 3rd again.
Okay, thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you so much. Good night. All right, the next one I've got is actually one that came kind of late today. So we're looking for 84 Doan. And I believe for 84 Doan, the agent is Mr. Murray. Hi, Mr. Murray with us? I see Mr. Murray is there. All right, Mr. Murray, can you unmute yourself, please? Mr. Murray. All right, Ms. Nguyen, is there an issue? Are we having an issue with Mr. Murray's connection in any way? Okay, I'm going to move to the, unless we've got, oh, I know, I think we've lost Mr. Murray at this point. Okay, let's move on to the next request for adjournment. And that was for application number 12, which was for 2124 Wayne. And it was a request by a neighbor. I'm looking for either Mr. Orweck or Mrs. Orweck. Do we have either in attendance this evening? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone come forward. All right, I'm seeing an Alexander Orweck key. Are you here to speak to application number 12?
Oh my God, where?
Hello. You're on mute. If we could get you to unmute yourself.
We do actually have an agent on record who will be speaking to that application.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So can you tell me who you are and where you live? And
yeah, absolutely. So I am a project manager for Richcraft Homes, and we currently have an application right now for severance.
okay, so I believe you're not speaking to the right application. We thought perhaps that you were somebody with a very similar name to you is actually we're looking for an Orwecki.
Okay, so I was a bit surprised because I knew that I was not the one supposed to be talking in this one.
I just wasn't sure if it was. I just wanted to be sure and not move on without. So that's good. Thank you. Anyway, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, so on that, then we don't have anybody to speak to this adjournment request. So I am going to, at this point, then step this down, and we're going to hear it later on today. So no adjournment request, as far as I can tell. Nobody's come forward with that, with rationale, so we'll hear it. The last one that is an adjournment request is for 1483 York Mills. And on that one, I'm looking for Mr. Stone. All right, Mr. Stone, I see you're with us. Good evening. Going to get you to unmute yourself. You're on mute. There you go. Okay, so Mr. Stone, you're aware that there's a request for an adjournment?
Yes, it's all been taken care of, so it's was sent in on Monday for the extra minor variance that would be required.
All right, okay. And so I think because it needs a recirculation, we'll need to move you to March 3rd, correct? Okay, any questions about this request for adjournment from the committee? No? Is there anyone out in the audience who would like to speak either for or against the request for adjournment on item 13? All right, I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, so committee, all those in favor of adjournment to March 3rd? Thank you very much. It's unanimous for the record. Mr. Stone, we'll see you in a month.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm going to call Mr. Murray. I see Mr. Murray, you're back. I'm hoping that we have better luck this time. Mr. Murray. Ah, there you are. You're on mute, Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray, you're still on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. So you're aware that there's a request for adjournment. I think, in fact, it was yourself that put the request in today. Is that correct?
Yesterday, actually, yes, that's correct.
All right. And again, the reason for the amendment or the adjournment, sorry, is you can just tell us in a couple of words.
Well, I got the material only yesterday, the reports and comments from the various agencies, and a couple of the suggestions for conditions are problematic. That's the first item. The other is that I haven't really had much of an opportunity to review with the owner, with Mr. Lewandowski, the options which we might have and the approaches we might take with regard to those recommendations for conditions.
All right. So, Mr. Murray, would you be available then to come back to the committee on February 17th?
That's in 2 weeks' time. I'm thinking it's going to take a bit longer than that. Perhaps, do I understand correctly? There's a March 3rd date?
There is, but now I'm beginning to wonder just how much we have. So Mr. Garnett, could you come back and let us know then just how's our meeting looking now at March 3rd? Because we've already put a few more items on there. Do we have room or do we need to go to the next one at this point?
I believe we'd have room, Madam Chair. We're still building that agenda. So even with the 2 adjournments, I don't believe we have very many at this point.
All right. Okay. So then March 3rd it is. Okay. Before we go there, anyone from the panel have any questions for Mr. Murray about the adjournment? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against this request for adjournment?
More than the Concordia University student expected to learn from his art history course.
Okay. We've got somebody who's sharing with us. Okay, so if that's the case, all those in favor of the panel then to put this over to March 3rd. All right, thank you very much. It's unanimous for the record. Mr. Murray, we will see you in a month as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Good night.
All right, you too. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now on to our agenda items, and as I think I mentioned at the in my opening remarks, we are going to go pretty much in order this evening. So with that, application number 1, looking for Ms. Aird and Ms. Carrera.
Hello. Good afternoon,
Hello.
Madam. Hi. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I am Bria Aird, a planner at Foten, and I'm the agent for Richcraft, the owner of 6429 Renault Road. Also online and available to answer questions if necessary are Julie Carrera, a senior planner at Foten, and Alexander Orweck, a project manager at Richcraft. If interested,
Right.
I do have a short.
Nope. So Ms. Aird, we're not going to request a presentation from you, but before we go any further, I need either an oath or a solemn declaration from you. Is it you or is it going to
Yes.
Mr. Orweck too? All right.
It's me,
Okay.
and I can do a solemn declaration.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was first posted on the subject property, the property to which the application applies, for the requisite time frame prior to the hearing, and also that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I do affirm that to be true.
Perfect. Okay, so we're not going to request a presentation. I'm opening it up directly to committee members. Any questions? Ms.
If I
Willis?
might.
Yes, Ms. Aird.
I do just want to put on the record, we have a few minor corrections to the notice. If I can go ahead and list those now.
Really? Because I have no record of that. All right. Please walk us through that. What is the changes?
So the lands to be retained are identified on the notice as part of lots 2 and 3 of concession 3, but the lands to be retained also include part of lot 1. The area of the retained lands is 33.6 hectares, whereas the notice identifies the area of the lands as 33.16 hectares. In addition to development.
Right.
Sorry.
I just want to be sure that I've got it so that when I'm reading the decisions and the minutes later that I have this. So sorry, it's the severed lands are this which size? Can you repeat that for me?
The area of the lands to be retained is 33.6 hectares, whereas the notice identified it as 33.16 hectares.
Actually, it said, well, 33, I've got 33.13. And then the notice says.
Yeah.
Okay, is it 33? So what's in the notice is 33.13, and we are changing that to 33.6, correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Aird? All right, thank you. Any other changes?
Yes, a small portion of the lands to be severed is zoned R3Z. The majority is zoned development reserve, but there is a small section that's zoned R3Z. And a portion of the lands to be retained has R3Z exception 2059, and R1Z zoning. And I have sent an email to the committee coordinator listing these, so that information is also there. I don't know if you can.
Tell me, Ms. Aird, when you sent that email? When did you send that email?
I sent that this evening.
Oh, okay. There's no way anybody's seen that at this point in time. So I gotta be honest with you, if things haven't come in by pretty much 6 o'clock the Tuesday night before, I don't get a chance to see it. It just doesn't happen. So we don't have it. I just want to speak with Ms. Ramirez for a moment. Ms. Ramirez, can you just confirm these? You've had a chance to look at these changes. Does it change anything for you?
These changes don't change my comments at all. Yeah, I didn't have a chance to, I didn't notice them before, but these changes don't recommend my comment or don't change my comments at all.
All right, okay, thank you. To the panel members, do you now want a presentation on this? Based on new information, new zoning information? No? We're good to proceed the way, all right, okay. If that's the case, we will then. Mr. White, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question of staff. I just noticed that with respect to the conformity to the official plan, I noticed that in process there's a community design plan, and I assume there's some a zoning application that's in process as well. Is there any downside to an approval of this application with respect to conformity with the OP and zoning? I'm just wondering if there is any possibility of a premature situation here.
Through you, Madam Chair, the CDP has been submitted and it's going to Planning Committee on February 11th, and it will then rise to Council on February 24th. And like everything, there's an appeal period, and that if there are no appeals, then that appeal period is over on March 17th, and no development can occur on these lands until that CDP goes through, because it is a requirement of the official plan. And there are concurrent applications that have been submitted to the city, and staff is satisfied that in light of all of this, that the severance is not premature.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ramirez. Ms. Willis?
Just a quick question for staff. It may be evident to staff, but it took a little bit of digging for me to understand what the condition pertained to here, the joint use and maintenance agreement. And so I was wondering whether, for clarity, it should specifically mention that I understand now that it's pertaining to part 2 on the adjacent property, whether that should be included in the condition. Because it appears to be the same sort of condition that would show up for future purchasers of units in the fullness of time after everything's been developed. So I guess, first of all, confirm that that is what it pertains to. It's to the easement on part 2, and that the condition maybe should reflect that.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. That is why the joint use and maintenance agreement was requested. And I don't have any language to suggest at this point for how that would be changed to reflect that it is for the road easement.
I could suggest it could simply be that the first sentence of the condition, an addition be put on that say, setting forth the obligations between the owners and the proposed future owners pertaining to part 2 on whatever the reference plan is. Yeah, it's part 2 on the draft reference plan.
Does that work for you, Ms. Ramirez?
Yes, that does work for me.
Okay. All right. Any comments from the other members? We're all in support of that amendment to the condition. All right. Okay. Any other questions, panel members? All right. I don't, as I said, have any registered speakers. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this application? Okay, I am not seeing anybody come forward. So all those in favor, please, from the committee. All right, so it is unanimous. The application is granted subject to the minor revisions to the condition. And I think that's all we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Okay, next application is number 2 for 211 Balmoral Place. And I think I'm looking for Ms. Belfi. Ms. Belfi, all right, I see Ms. Belfi is with us.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Good evening.
Great, thank you.
All right, so Ms. Belfi, I don't have a stat deck from you. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was that the sign was posted on the property to which the application applies for the prescribed amount of time prior to the hearing, and that the sign was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
Yes, I swear that to be true.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're not going to need a presentation from you this evening, but I'm going to open it up to committee members for any questions at this point. I don't think we have any revisions to your application, okay, to the notice. Any questions from the committee? Pretty straightforward. We've seen this before. Okay, with that, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this application? Okay.
Could I had one thing
Okay, go ahead, please.
If I could, I just wanted to note that we were asking that if this minor variance is approved, that it be generally tied to the site plan that was submitted. The corner of the building, the rear of the building won't change, but there could potentially be slight revisions to the footprint. Just that it just be generally tied to this plan. The intent is to still build on that western side of the property within all the property boundaries, but the actual final plan of the interior hasn't been completed, so there could be slight changes to some of it.
All right, so Ms. Belfi, though, if we generally tie it to plans, you still have to meet, as you know, the variance that if we approve it this evening.
Yes.
We're not tying it loosely to that variance, right? I guess we just want to be sure that we all understand that.
That's correct. Yeah, the rear corner of the house will not change. It just could be perhaps the front of the house or the side of the house, but the rear will not move. That's going to be tied.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks. I just wanted to confirm that and get it on the record. So any questions from our panel on this? Again, like I said, pretty straightforward. Okay, anyone in the audience want to speak either for or against this application? Okay, not seeing anybody. All those in favor? The panel, thank you. So it's unanimous. The application is granted, and the variance, and I guess the granting is tied to, as you said, generally to the site plan, so that there's a little bit of room if you need to move the house, keeping, of course, within the variance limits. So thank you so much. I think that's all you need from us. I don't think there's anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, application number 4, looking for 62 Lockisle Road. And from that, let's see, I need, I guess I'm looking for Mr. Gobay, the agent. Mr. Gobay, are you with us? Yes, I see Mr. Gobay is there. Good evening.
Yes, right, correct. Okay.
All right, so Mr. Gobay, again with you, there's no stat deck, so I'm going to read something to you. I need you to respond. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that the sign was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I affirm.
All right, thank you very much. We're not requesting a presentation from you this evening, but I do note just before we jump into any questions that we are having to amend your notice to so essentially the legal description. So it's part, and I'm going to read it to you, and I just need you to confirm it. So part of lots 13 and 14 of registered plan 200. Is that correct? All right, and just for added clarity, Ms. Ramirez, are we striking out the and Ethel Street?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure because I see it in 2 different places and they don't quite match, but that's okay. So just for the record, we're striking and Ethel Street from that legal description. I don't believe there's any other changes. Okay. Panel members, any questions for Mr. Gobay about the proposed variance? Says we've got 2. Mr. Hindle.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I noted in the plans that there was plans for storage above the garage. Is that plan to be converted to living space as well, or just as open storage?
It's to remain storage.
Okay. That was it.
Any other questions? Okay, again, no registered speakers for this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against this application? All right, I'm not seeing anyone move forward. Okay, members, all those in favor? All right, for the record, it's unanimous. The application is granted. Mr. Gobay, I think that's it. I don't see any conditions or anything else that we need to chat about. So
Great,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Same to you.
Okay, number 5, 1468 Kilbourne Avenue. And for that one, I'm looking for Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, are you there? Yes, you are. Okay, good. Good evening. So, Mr. Robinson, I'm not seeing any changes required to your notice in any way. We're, oh, and before we go to any further, I don't believe I have a stat deck from you either. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted on the property to which the application applies for the prescribed amount of time prior to the hearing, that the sign was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I swear that to be true.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that said, no housekeeping changes required, no presentation. We've had a chance to look at this pretty closely. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Robinson? Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, Mr. Robinson, concerning the condition that's been requested by staff relating to the location of the front wall and driveway of the buildings. Is there any issue with that? Because I believe that we're talking about the existing dwelling as well as the new dwelling. Are there any issues there that you see?
Now, the intent of with these severances in Alta Vista, driveways have to be on different frontages. The driveway for the existing house is on Brayside now and leads to a garage. The garage will be removed, and we are going to have a new driveway for the existing house fronting onto Kilbourne along the west property line at the side of the house.
So your existing front of the building then faces
Kilbourne.
Kilbourne?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from the committee? All right, again, I don't have anyone on the speakers list for this item either. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to either speak in favor or in opposition to this application? All right, I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand. So on that, then committee, all those in favor? All right, for the record, the application is granted unanimously. Mr. Robinson, you do have quite the list of conditions. You've looked at them all. You're aware of what needs to be done. No
Yes.
issues, no questions?
No, thanks.
All right, okay, then I think with that, thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, have a nice evening. Okay, on to application number 7, which is for 1130 Tishart Crescent. And I am looking for, let's see, Mr. Reddy. On forward.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening. So, Mr. Reddy, don't think I have a stat deck from you.
No, you do.
So before we get underway, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee, that the sign was posted on the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, that the sign was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time. Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
Yes, I swear.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reddy. So, no presentation required from you this evening. Any questions from the committee? Mr. White.
Madam Chair, Mr. Reddy, just a quick question. You say in your covering letter towards the end of it that unfortunately Planning Act statements were not signed in the original deeds. Can you tell me what you're referring to there? I'm just not familiar with these statements.
Yeah, not a problem. The statements, if they're signed, would cure any past contravention of the Planning Act. And since this, if those were signed, then we would not have had to bring this application forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Going to the public portion. Again, no speakers registered. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against this application? Okay, not seeing anyone raise their hands. Before we go to a
something
vote.
about the conditions, please?
Yeah, that's where I was going. You must have read my mind. That's where I was going to. Okay, so, well, in that case, why don't you raise your issue, and you'll probably have covered what I'm thinking as well. So go ahead.
Sure. The condition requiring the joint use and maintenance agreement. There is already one registered on title governing all issues that are stated to be covered in the condition stated in the notice of hearing.
All right, did you share that with Ms. Ramirez, or is that new information?
That's new information. Well, it's not new information. I haven't shared it, but I can provide that to her.
All right, so Ms. Ramirez, with that, would that be satisfactory to you, and we could just remove that condition?
Through you, Madam Chair, these were standard conditions, so I included them. I do have a copy of the agreement, and I have shared it with committee and let them know that the condition can be cleared based on that agreement, but it was included because it's a standard condition that we typically always include, but it can be cleared.
Okay, all right, in that which case we may retain it, because I understand what you're saying, and it's not going to be an issue. Mr. White?
Madam Chair, thank you. I would assume that this is another development that's been covered by a site plan agreement registered on title, and I think Mr. Ruddy alludes to the agreements that are required of the purchasers of these units. So I would assume that this has already been dealt with under the site plan control process through the agreement, the site plan agreement that's registered on title, and it's binding on all successors. So that's probably where that came from.
Correct.
All right. Okay, so I guess the question at this point is, do we retain it or do we remove it? Any preferences from?
There's no preference.
All right.
If you're,
well, you know what, so Mr. Reddy, I think what we'll do is just because when it's new, like late information like this for us, I'd prefer that we just go through with it. I know that when it comes to clearing these conditions, it can be really quick, especially if you've already shared the information. So let's just leave it in there for now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. Okay, and with that, I think I went to the public portion, right? I've already done that, so I think we are at the point where we're going to vote. But I did have one thing I wanted to answer, Mr. Reddy. Did you have seen the comments from Rogers? You understand they're looking for an easement?
Yes, there's already an easement on title, so I can discuss that with them directly.
Perfect. Okay, I don't have a condition. I just wanted to raise that with you because it was again some more new information for the committee.
Sure.
Okay, well, with that, and that I'm going to vote now. So all those in favor? All right. So for the record, the application is unanimously approved. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. On to application number 8 for 7 Nesbitt. And I am looking for Mr. Segreto.
Hello?
Good evening, Mr. Segreto.
Good evening.
All right, so for this one, again, let's see, do I need, yeah, I need to do the staff deck with you. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee, that the sign was posted on the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, and that the sign was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I swear.
All right, great. Okay, we're not going to require a presentation from you. Don't believe we have any notice changes either. So, committee, did you have any questions for Mr. Segreto? No questions for Mr. Segreto. I think it was this one. I know we're going to see you later, but I think I heard a comment tonight. You had a good report, Mr. Segreto. So maybe that's part of why you're not getting any questions. It's all covered.
Doesn't happen
Okay.
too often.
No, maybe not. Oh, Mr. Hindle, wait, Mr. Hindle, Mr. White.
I can always.
Spoke too quickly.
Come on, man.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Hindle.
No worries. I think in this case, we haven't heard any concerns from the Conservation Authority, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, RBCA is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the footprint is fairly similar to the existing home, I take it?
Yeah, I would say so. I didn't do these plans myself. Another architect did it, but I would imagine that it's quite similar to what was there, and again, what's on that street. It's very similar to what's along that streetscape.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. White.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd just like to compliment Mr. Segreto on his addressing the issue of those front protecting garages. Quite frankly, my opinion, this is a ridiculous requirement in a neighborhood like this, and he's quite effectively shown how the neighborhood is characterized by these types of garages, which quite frankly are rather they're not unattractive in any shape or form in this neighborhood. And the proposal that he's put forward, I think, is very consistent with what's gone on in historical development in the community. So just compliment Mr. Segreto for addressing that issue quite well.
Appreciate it
All
very
right,
much. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't have any speakers that are registered, so I'm going to do a call out. Anyone in the audience want to speak either for or against this application? Now's your chance. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So with that, members all in favor of the application? All right, for the record, your application is unanimously granted by the committee, and I don't believe there's anything else. You've seen the comments that have come in. Any questions, Mr. Segreto?
No,
Nope.
we're good with everything. Thank you.
All right, great. We'll see you a little bit later.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Application number 9. And for this one, I am looking for.
Sarah, go ahead, unmute anything or not?
Mr. Segreto, can I get you to mute? All right, so Mr. Gibson on number 9. Okay, so I see Mr. Gibson is there with us.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Gibson. And with you, you have submitted your stat deck, so I don't have to do that portion with you this evening. That's great. I do need to do a couple of things, though, housekeeping changes on your application. So my understanding is for the notice, it's the notice that we're going to simply make a few corrections to. So with regards to the zoning, it should read the R1FF, and there's also an I1B, an institutional zone. And then with regards to the description of the retained lands, we're going to add after Plan 5R 9117, and parts 1, 2, and 3 on Plan 4R 26-22-5. So can you just confirm to me that those are accurate corrections to the notice?
Yes, I do. I can. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we don't need a presentation from you this evening. Going to open it up to the panel members. Anyone have any questions on this application? All right, Mr. Gibson, just have one question out of curiosity. So if I understand this correctly, this was originally acquired and it's simply being resold as almost a lot line adjustment back to the property from which it came originally. Is that correct?
That's right. It was an inadvertent merger. The Sikh temple purchased the residential property next door to the temple, not realizing the consequence of the merger. And so now we are simply applying to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels.
We're not actually creating a lot, right? So this is actually going to be merged with the property at 72 Rideau Heights? Which address? So if I understand things correctly, we're not actually creating a new lot with 66 Rideau Heights. We're actually, it's going to be transferred to 72 Rideau Heights. Is that correct?
That's right. There's an agreement of purchase and sale. Yes, to sell the part that we are asking to be severed to, that is correct. Yes. And we are, this transaction is in abeyance until such time as we're able to address this issue.
Okay, all right. So it's just that you're selling them that portion of the property, which, okay, all right. Okay, so that was my only question. And then I don't think anybody else on the panel has any further questions along that line. Okay, excellent. Again, no one is registered to speak, but I want to give the audience, anyone out there who may want to speak either for or against the application, the chance to address the panel. Is there anyone? We have a quiet audience tonight, very quiet audience out there. Okay, well, with that then, all those in favor of the consent application? All right, so for the record, the consent is unanimously approved by the committee. You've got a couple of conditions. You know what those are, Mr. Gibson?
Yes, they're acceptable. Thank you very much. We've reviewed them and yeah.
Well, I think that's it then. I don't think we have anything left to discuss. So thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, application number 10. We are looking for Mr. Robinson as the agent for 257 MacArthur. Hello again, Mr. Robinson.
Hello.
Oh, we lost you.
Oh, sorry.
We lost your video.
There.
So I'm going to have to read this to you again. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was that the sign was posted on the property to which the application applies, that it was posted for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I do swear.
All right, thank you. We are not requesting a presentation on this one either. So with that, and I don't think there's any changes to your application that is required. Committee members, any question for Mr. Robinson? All right, I'm not seeing any questions at all. With that, then from the audience, Mr. White.
Madam Chair, I believe Ms. Markovich had a question.
Ms. Markovich, go ahead, please. Sorry for
I put up my actual hand, Madam Chair, as opposed to the Zoom hand. Apologies. Actually, just a comment, really. My turn to commend the agent. I just think this is a fantastic design. I think it's very thoughtfully done and a fantastic example of traditional Main Street design. So I just wanted to commend you on this application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always good to hear some really positive feedback on our application. So that's terrific. Okay. I don't think I went to the public portion. So is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak either for or against this application? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward at all. So panel members, all those in favor? All right, Mr. Robinson, the application is unanimously granted. And I don't believe there's anything more that we need to discuss on the
There is one item, and it's in the staff report, and it indicates that the approvals approval be worded to allow for minor modifications during the site plan control process.
Okay, so that we are granting generally to the tides, to the plan submitted. All right, yes. Duly noted and on the record, so that's the decision.
Thank you very much. Good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, number 11. So for number 11, let's see if Mr. Reddy, I think again, is that for baseline? Yes, 2421. Mr. Reddy, are you with us? Did we lose Mr. Reddy? Or did I miss something? No.
Still here.
You're still here. Good. Excellent. Okay. So again, I need to read this to you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was essentially posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed amount of time, and that it was clearly visible and legible entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
Yes, I swear.
All right. Okay. Again, we're not doing a presentation tonight. We've really had a chance to go through this. Don't feel it's necessary. So I'm going to open it up to the committee members. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Reddy, I just noticed that the reason we're here, I guess, one of the reasons we are here dealing with this application is because it appears that there was a lot line adjustment that was done at some time in the past that altered the original lots that are on registered lots on a plan of subdivision. Do you have any background or history on that?
No, I'm not aware of that. We had to get a new reference plan commissioned simply because we couldn't use the original plan of subdivision that was created a long time ago. In order to get this application forward, we had to realign or get a new survey out to properly survey the property boundaries because they just didn't match.
So, but as far as you're aware, there was at some point in time in the past a lot line adjustment, I guess, that added a portion, looks like it added a portion of lot 704 to lot 703.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have concern. If you go back through and look at the legal description, you'll see they're both part of lot 703, 704.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the committee with questions? Mr. Reddy? All right, I'm going to make a call out to the audience. Anyone who would like to speak either for or against this application, now's your opportunity. All right, I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. Oh, Ms. Sarian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a very quick question, and pardon my ignorance to this whole process. It's the first time that I attend one of these. As a neighbor, I was just wondering if this affects my property lines, or easements.
All right, so Ms. Sarian, can you just give me your municipal address for the record, please?
Yes, I live at 2412 Thorson Avenue, and this would be lot number, oh, I forget. I had it on my notes here. But I'm on Thorson Avenue, so I'm one of the neighbors that are at the back of the lots that we're discussing this evening.
All right, so Mr. Reddy, can you confirm for Ms. Soria that in fact there isn't going to be an impact on her property in any way?
Correct. There will be absolutely no impact. This is merely just to separate the title of the lands that are already there because they had inadvertently merged.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, all right, thank you. All right, anyone else want to have any questions or want to speak either for or against the on this application? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. So again, fairly straightforward. This is the second of this type of application that we've been dealing with tonight, merging on title. So all those in favor from the panel? All right, so it's unanimous. The application is granted. There's a number of conditions, Mr. Reddy. You've looked at them, you've read them.
Yeah, I had a question on a few of them. The first one relates to the firewall separation. There was conflicting reports going back and forth with building services.
All right, I'll have to bring forward Mr. Hodgins, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, Building Code Services originally requested that condition, but I followed up with them and they clarified it's not needed in this case because they're detached dwellings. I think there was just a misunderstanding there. So the fire separation, fire code separation is not required as a condition of approval here.
All right, is that helpful?
Thank you.
Ready? Okay. Next.
With respect to the road widening, it caught me off guard. Is there any timeline for when this may be required or when this the city may require the conveyance of the road widening?
Oh, so I think the conveyance that's part of the clearing of the conditions, right? So you have to, I thought your question was going to be when are they going to widen the road? But actual conveyance that's part of the condition. You're going to need to provide that to the city.
Yeah, I only asked because it said if required, it wasn't an absolute.
Oh, through you, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
A road widening is required here. The if required was more related to the amount. I think we need to first confirm from the surveyor what the center line of the road is, and then from there they'll be able to determine from their detailed design drawings how much of the dedication is required. So I'm pretty confident some dedication is required here. Just the amount is not fully known at this time, but it could be up to 22.5 meters from the center line of the road.
All right. I can see the confusion though. If required. So I guess in just if it were like a terrible fluke that there's like none required.
Yeah, exactly. Could make my life easier.
It's like, it's like, oh, okay. All right. So, but that's fine. Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Hodgins. We understand why those words are there. So anything else, Mr. Reddy?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right. Okay. I think that's it. We voted. Have we voted? Like we've done so many now, I'm losing track. Have we voted? We're all in favor? Yes, all right. Just restating that we are granting the application. And I think that was just a discussion on the conditions. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Reddy.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. All right, so the next application is number 12. This is 2124 Wayne Avenue, was the one that we had a request for adjournment, but we didn't get to anyone who came forward. Ms. Pika, I see you're there, the owner. So come on forward. Yes, Ms. Pika, or it's Mr. Pika.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we don't need a presentation, but what I do need is a solemn declaration or oath from you. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted on the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that the sign was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I affirm to be true.
All right, thank you very much. We're not requesting a presentation from you, so I'm going to open it up directly to the committee members if they have any questions. Mr. Hindle.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, in this case, have you been able to kind of, since the application was submitted, have you been able to ascertain just roughly how this took place? Was it that the measurements were off initially, or that the house was built too high?
Still a mystery to me. I mean, everything was I thought that it was built according to plans, and we even measured with the city inspector, the main floor, the second floor. We went on the roof. I still don't understand how we came with this 30 centimeters above the allotted height. Still a mystery, and nothing's really changed in terms of like all the construction stuff, all the windows, doors that we ordered, everything fits perfectly. The foundations, according to the survey, it's, the height, it's perfect. Everything seems to jive, except the fact that I seem to be 30 centimeters above the allotted height. So I really cannot explain it. So I thought I cut my losses and come to the committee right away.
No, fair enough. But otherwise, other than the height issue, you're in compliance with the variances that were previously issued?
Everything else, the footprint is exactly as per plan.
Okay. Nope, that was it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hindle. Anyone else? I have to admit, Mr. Pica, I was a bit shocked to see the amount of difference as well on the height. Typically, when there's mistakes made, they're not in the order of the amount that this is, and so it really is a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? How does this happen?
It's a mystery. Honest to God, it's a mystery.
All right. Okay. Any other questions then from the committee on this? So, Mr. Pica, the house is pretty much constructed at this point. Like, how far along are you?
I would say 95%.
Okay, so we're almost dealing with an existing condition at this point.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have anybody registered to speak, but I'm going to call out to the audience. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against this application?
Yes, I think you can talk. Where do I
And I
press?
see we have Mr. Orweck.
Yes, I'm against this. Originally, the minor variances were not very minor. We were in Spain. We came back and found out that there was nothing we could do. So now this is adding insult to injury. What's happening now is that he has a platform raised above his roof by about 1 foot 11 inches. And as far as I can tell, there's probably going to be a rooftop veranda up there. And I just cannot believe how you could err by that distance. That's just unbelievable.
All right, Mr. Orweck. That was our sentiment as well, and the reason for Mr. Hindle's question right from the outset. Mr. Pica, I think the committee is aware that Mr. Orweck has had some concerns with regards to the possibility of some amenity use on the top of that flat roof. Can you confirm that in fact is not your plans in any way?
It's not my plan. It's neither my plan nor the possibility to do it. And according to the survey, the roof is exactly as designed.
Okay, all right.
So there's I mean, if I wanted a rooftop, I would have included it into the plans.
All right, Mr. Hodgins, can you just come forward for just a minute? I got a quick question for you. I take it that if there was then, Mr. Hodgins, any future use of that rooftop, and I know what Mr. Pica has said, so I'm just asking you this more hypothetically than anything else, that would have to come back to the committee in any event, right? There would be another application because because there would have to be probably the type of access to the rooftop and a few other things that fall into that basket of requirements for rooftop terraces.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe if it's tied to plans, it would be as shown on the elevation drawings. There are provisions for accessory structure that would allow for rooftop access. I would just need a minute to take a look and see what would be permitted from a zoning bylaw perspective. I mean, it may be possible to do. They would need a building permit, but I would imagine tying it to the plans would be sufficient to ensure that the height stays as is.
All right, so thank you for that. I'm glad you added that clarification. So Mr. Orweck, just so that what Mr. Hodgins has explained is very clear, is that when the committee approves minor variances and ties it specifically to the plans that we were provided in order to make our decision, they essentially have to build exactly what's in that. If they don't, then they're essentially in violation of the decision. And in that case, they would have to come back and likely apply for whatever it is that they're doing with it. So, Mr. White, did you want to add some comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if we're going to tie it to roof plans. Do we have those on file? Because I have not seen the only plan.
I think what Mr. Hodgins is saying is that because the plans are specifically absent of any rooftop terrace, that in fact that the use of the house is tied to the plan. So they can't. In other words, they really can't do anything with the rooftop because that's not part of the plans today.
The roof, the information that I've seen is the surveyor's certificate, which addresses the rooftop elevation. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. So nothing beyond that is outlined in the surveyor's certificate would be permitted if we tie it to plans.
Yes, I would imagine that that's exactly it, right? We're tying that development and that permit specifically to what's before us.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we have an elevation drawing of the building of any kind that would be included in that list of plans.
Excuse me.
Yes, Ms. Willis.
Yes, there was the floor plans as well don't show any possibility of stairways up to the roof, and there is an elevation that was included in the presentation, like a rendering.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
That's fine. Thank you. That's good. I think that covers us then if we are tying it to those drawings.
Through.
Okay, so just let me loop that around. So just to be clear, Mr. Orweck, so that what we just saw has to be what it is that's developed next to. Can't be anything else. And Mr. Hodgins, you're about to tell us about rooftop terraces in that zone?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, they are permitted subject to certain setback requirements on the rooftop terrace. So it would be possible in theory to have that done under the zoning bylaw if it was not tied to plans.
That's the trick. It is tied to plans. So no, they can't do it. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. And it's really to give Mr. Orweck some ease of mind about that I've made sure that we've had this discussion. So thank you very much, Mr. Hodgins, for looking that up. I would truly appreciate your advice on that this evening. Okay, anything else to talk about? Because I'm going to ask if there's anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak either for or against the application. All right, I'm not seeing anybody else come forward to address the committee. So with that, then I think it's time for the committee's vote. So all those in favor? All right, again, so the application is granted, Mr. Pika. subject to, tied to plans, and it's unanimous for the record. Just, I think you've heard the discussion here tonight. What you've applied for is what you get. And I think that's what you said you want, so yes, no issues there. All right. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Okay, so I think the next we've got 2 applications left. Just bear with me. So number 14 and 15, and this is for 97 Granville Street. And with that one, I'm looking for Mr. Ibrahimpour. Mr. Ibrahimpour, are you with us anywhere? Not seeing Mr. Ibrahimpour. See Mr. Motion. Motion? Is it Motion?
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have your name.
Now,
I have your name.
Good evening. Yes. Now I've been here.
So, sir, I need your full name and your municipal address.
Yes. My name is Majid Ibrahimpour, and my address is 1358 Westmore Drive in Ottawa. And
okay.
I guess that's enough.
Thank you. Yes, the problem is, of course, that the only name I see is another name, not the name I was expecting, but then you did give me your full name. So now I know I am speaking with the right person. So wonderful. Okay. Before we go too much further, we need to address the statutory declaration for the sign posting. So I'm going to read something to you and I need you to respond. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted on the property to which the applications apply for the prescribed number of days required prior to the hearing, and that the sign was at all times visible and legible? And yes. So do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I swear.
All right, thank you very much.
Right.
Okay, so we've seen you here before, I think.
Yes.
You were here previously for, I believe it's a consent, and then you needed a minor variance. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right, so Mr. Ibrahimpour, I think I need to do a housekeeping amendment on your notice with you. So I'm going to read to you what the changes are, and then I need you to confirm.
Sure.
So on the lands to be severed, we've shown, as shown on draft 4R plan, it consists of part 2 and 4 that will have a frontage of 8.07 meters and a depth of 30.47 meters. Is that correct? Okay, so we're striking 28.03 and it's now 30.47. On the lands to be retained, also, we're striking the depth of the property as 28.03 and we're replacing it with 30.47 meters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. Okay, so for the record, we have amended the application. So committee, as I said, we have seen this one before, and I think who we got? Mr. Hodgins is helping us out with this one. Does anyone have any questions? Because I think what we're looking here is actually greater relief that that was originally applied for. Is that correct? I think that is, eh? Mr. Hodgins? For the corner side, the reduced corner side yard, it's really that we've had to ask for greater relief. That's correct, right?
That's correct. Through you, Madam Chair, in 2019, it was granted a relief from 4.5 meters to 2.1. So that's to be increased. And then during the consent application, it was realized that according to the survey plan, the interior side yard setback and rear yard setbacks were also deficient. So minor variances are included for those items as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hodgins. Okay, so Mr. Ibrahimpour, we're not going to request a presentation from you. But the committee members, does anybody have any questions on either the consent or any of the proposed minor variances? Mr. Hindle.
Yeah, I was just curious, in this case, is it an issue of construction, that construction was just built a little bit off kilter, or is this something that the plans had changed from before and we missed issues here?
No, it was just a mistake on the foundation. When they put the foundation, the wall gave up a bit and few centimeter. That's why it ends up that we were off, but the whole thing is just exactly the same. Nothing changes, but it was just the measurement that it get few centimeter off.
Okay, but fundamentally it was the same or very similar to what we looked at previously in the last
Yes,
step.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from the committee? Okay, not seeing any. I don't have any registered speakers for this for these applications, so I'm going to do a call out. Anyone in the audience who would like to address the committee with comments either for or against this applications, or these two out, the consent and minor variance applications, now's your chance. Just raise your hand. All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So with that, Mr. Ibrahimopour, you've looked at the conditions. You're aware of what's being imposed?
Yes, I do.
All right, okay. So on the consent application, all those in favor? All right, so the consent application is unanimously approved, and on the minor variance application, all those in favor? On the minor variance, Ms. Willis? Ms. Willis, yes. You're in favor, or you want to ask a question? I haven't figured that out now.
I'm in favor. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. So the minor variance application is also granted unanimously. And I believe that concludes your item, Mr. Ibrahimopour. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we are down to our last application for the evening. Number 16, I believe, Mr. Segreto, on 2899 Innes Road. And I note that Mr. Schramm is here from the city's legal services to help us. So great. Mr. Segreto, I am going to need to read something to you. I know it almost off by heart now, but of course, I need my piece of paper and I've got to find it. Just bear with me for a moment. What did I do with that? Oh, here it is. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted on the property to which the application applies, that it was posted for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I swear.
All right, thank you, Mr. Segreto. Not looking for a presentation on this. I think I think you're back on this one because the committee wanted some further guidance with regards to I guess it's a permission that we're looking for in this case on a legal non-conforming use. So, committee members, anybody want to launch into some questions? Either for the applicant or Mr. Strong. Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is most appropriately addressed to the staff and planning staff and Mr. Schramm as well. And my concern is that maybe we'll get the background on the opinion that we received, but in terms of the application itself, I'm wondering if we approve this application, we'll essentially be perpetuating a legal non-conforming situation. And I'm wondering what the city's procedure will be with respect to the zoning future of this parcel if we do approve the application, because we'll be creating a situation where we have a legal non-conforming use that is going to be there. It's going to be essentially brand new, will be there for many, many years in the future. And it would seem to me the most appropriate thing to do if we approve such an application would be to have the city actually zone the property so that it is in compliance with the zoning bylaw.
Problem with that, eh? Residential.
Right, yeah.
If you don't have the, Mr. Segreto, can you please mute your,
Oh, sorry.
thank you.
Someone was asking.
Sorry, Mr. White, go ahead.
So my thinking is that if we approve the application, it would be most appropriate for the city to actually zone the property in compliance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw for the long-term future. And I think that would be in the interests of future owners in terms of having a property that is zoning compliant. So it's more that what happens to this thing in the future is my concern. Thank you.
I'm happy to respond to that with a few comments, Madam Chair, through you. So the city, the right for a legal non-conforming use, of course, comes from the Planning Act itself. So the city has no power to terminate an existing legal non-conforming use. We obviously, there's a certain policy goal of getting all properties in line with the zoning bylaw, but we don't have any authority as the city to require a legal non-conforming use to cease. And in fact, the case law is pretty clear that an owner can reconstruct a building in order to continue a legal non-conforming use that has been continuous since before the zoning bylaw was adopted, the zoning bylaw that made it legal non-conforming. So we can't require the owner to bring a zoning bylaw amendment application in this case, or in any case where there is a legal non-conforming use. They of course could do that voluntarily if they chose to. And if we were to rezone the property on our own initiative, that the property would continue to have a legal non-conforming use until that use ceased. So the new zoning wouldn't apply if we were to rezone it on our own initiative. And I guess if we rezoned it so that the current use complies, then it would become a conforming use. But it wouldn't. I don't think that that's the suggestion here. So I hope I've answered the question, and I'm happy to elaborate further if there's any follow-up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a follow-up. I mean, my thinking is that if we are perpetuating a legal non-conforming use, is it not in the city interest to actually? I mean, city staff are supportive of this perpetuation of a legal non-conforming use, or at least perpetuation of a use that won't conform to the zoning bylaw. Is it not more appropriate that the city? I mean, I have no problem with us dealing with this situation right now and approving it, but after we approve it, is it not appropriate for the city to consider actually zoning it, taking the initiative to zone it to comply? In other words, applying a residential zoning in this case that would render the new development conforming to the current zoning bylaw. That's basically what I'm suggesting.
Well, I maybe would invite Ms. Ramirez to comment on whether that's from her planning perspective that would be advisable.
Through you, Madam Chair, I can take Mr. White, Member White's suggestion back to staff, and we do have an omnibus bill that goes, and I can ask if this is something that would or could be included in that. At this time, that's the best answer I can give.
Yeah, I would agree that that's the way that I think it should be handled in the future. But I have no problem with us dealing with the immediate application that we have before us. But I think in terms of, in the long term, in the interests of the city and in the interests of future owners of this particular property, it would be appropriate that the lands are zoned to be in compliance with the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that's for sure, because in effect, that's what winds up happening if you're essentially supporting a use that is going to survive for years. It's not like it's about to be replaced by anything, right? It's not an interim use in any way. So it kind of begs the question, why aren't you going down that road in the first place? So yeah, maybe an omnibus zoning amendment that captures all of these strange outliers is the way to go. So if you could, Ms. Ramirez, find out whether or not this is, in the future, because I think what we've heard and what we've read through Mr. Schramm's opinion is that, in fact, we're going to be faced with more of this. We, as planners, especially some of us who've been around for a long time, we used to read zoning bylaws that essentially said, unless your house, your legal non-conforming house burnt down, you literally couldn't do anything. And so, I read with great interest some of the case law that Mr. Schramm provided. I found it interesting that there was a lot of talk about use and intensification of use, as opposed to a sort of more clear guidance on the expansion of a physical structure, as opposed to the intensification of a use within a structure. So, but I think for me, at the end of the day, and I was sharing this with the members prior to the hearing, the most compelling thing for me was, in fact, the information, Mr. Schramm, that you provided about the manner in which the province of Quebec deals with some of this, which I think is a reasoned approach to the manner in which these kinds of decisions should be made. So in other words, there is a landowner right that is fairly well entrenched, and there needs to be fairly compelling reason for even in the face of something like nonconformity to a zoning bylaw that you would have to demonstrate in terms of impact. So that's kind of what did it for me. It kind of answered the question right there. So I don't. I accept that that would be the right way to proceed. Any other thoughts from the panel on that? And thank you, Mr. Schramm, by the way, for putting that together. Really, truly appreciated getting that information. A lot of good background, and that's exactly what the committee was looking for when we looked to adjourn this item the last time, was to be given that guidance. We're not asking you to tell us what to do, but you gave us the background information that we needed in order to make an informed decision. So again, on behalf of all of the panel members, thank you so much for doing that.
Thanks, I'm glad it was helpful.
Great, excellent. So from the panel then, going once, going twice, any questions to Mr. Segreto before we go to the public? All right, with that, I don't, again, have anyone on a speaker's list for this. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this application? All right, I'm not seeing any. So with that, then, members, time for a vote. All in favor? All right, so we've been unanimous this evening on granting applications. We had a lot of applications, but it's pretty straightforward for the most part tonight. So Mr. Segreto, with that, your application is granted. So your client's going to be very pleased, I think, to hear that they can move forward with the development and the house that they would like to build. So we wish them luck, and thank you so much for agreeing to the adjournment in order to get us the information that we needed. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, excellent. I don't think we have anything else then, Mr. Segreto. That brings us to the end of our agenda. So I need a motion from the panel members to adjourn. Ms. Willis, seconded by Ms. Margovich. And with that, I'd like to thank staff again, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Hodgins, Mr. Schramm, Ms. Young, Ms. Manette, Williams, and Nguyen. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support tonight. Went amazingly well. Well done. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. All right. Have a nice